Glowing red eyes, an unmasculine voice, he reads too fast and likes old comic book stories, he edits poorly, he mashes.
This is the story of a man named Danny Nash and his wife Helen, whom entered a terrible place called the Sylvester House. Unbidden and unaware. Mr. Nash, blackmailer and confidence man extraordinaire, and his similarly wicked wife hid in such a place to avoid arrest and a murder trial. Hello and welcome to this episode of Murder Incorporated. This is episode number 1, our very first episode. In this issue, we humbly bring you a timeless classic in horror comics called Murder Mansion. This comes to us from the pages of Adventures into Darkness, issue 5, published in August of 1952. It was published by Standard Comics. It is very rare. This is an independent production. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, donate, and visit our merchandise store. Every little bit helps. Our story begins with a question. We are asked, how many of us have ever passed a boarded-up brownstone mansion without wondering what may be happening inside? Was the owner of such a place really away for winter, or was he perhaps looking out through a crack in the blinds? Those dusty halls once echoed to violins and laughing voices, but what kind of laughter is heard now? Our story starts a few blocks away from their soon-to-be hideout as our two villains argue with an old acquaintance. "You rotten blackmailers," an old man shouts at the two. He is short and balding, white hair and dapper suit. "For years I've paid to save my family's good name," he continues, "and now my money's gone. I'm through. What you do about it is up to you." Mr. Danny Nash is tall and broad, middle-aged and blonde. He has a gun aimed at the old man and is sneering. Danny Nash says, "Okay, Carson, then you're of no use to us, are you?" Carson tells them, "Stop! Stop it, Nash! You can't kill me in cold blood." "Oh, can't I?" Danny sneers more, playing more for his wife than old Mr. Carson. "That's right, Danny. Give it to him good," Helen yelled. She is tall, too. She has hair that is long and dark as night. Her red coat is bright red as blood. She says, "I'm sick of his whining." The gun goes off with a loud bang. Danny, high on adrenaline, not a man to feel remorse, smiles along with his adoring wife. After their hasty action, the two journey to their badly chosen hideout. "Where to now, Dan?" Helen Nash asks. Danny is still smiling. "Ever heard of Sylvester Place?" he asks her. "Nobody will ever think of looking for us there. It's a cinch." As they approach the huge old brownstone, Helen notes, "No watchman on the place, is there?" Danny Nash replies in boast, "I've already taken care of him." They have passed through a gate, and Danny is opening a ground floor window. He ushers her to climb inside. "Come on, kid, hop in. Haven't got all night," he says. Once inside, Helen feels awkward and scared for the first time that night. "Ugh, it's spooky in here. Where's the man who lives here?" Helen asks. Danny answers her, "Old Sylvester's in Florida right now. Nothing to worry about until May." "Well, what do you think of it, kid?" "This is the upstairs library. Off there is our bedroom, and that door leads to the sitting room." Helen replies, "It'll do. Right now it looks like a cyclone hit it." Danny seems puzzled. Had someone gotten here before him? Furniture is overturned. Books are scattered everywhere. Has it been burglarized already? Danny's attention is drawn to an open book lying on the floor. "Well, what do you know? An old hand-lettered book. 500 or 600 years old if it's a day," Danny said. Helen has already made herself at home on a richly upholstered chair. Okay, bright boy, she says. So you were honor man in college. How about rustling up some grub? I'm starved. Danny replied, Go on, laugh. I happen to know the sale price of a book like this could keep us eating for years. Listen to this, Helen. His voice turns authoritative as he begins to read. Vocar demonum teneshad necessa est. Next, Helen screamed. A thud. Smoke. Light. Somewhat short for a human, but not a human. A thing appears before them. A dozen feet away, it stands. Its skin is green. Its huge, yellow eyes and beak are as an owl's. Its pupils are vertical, like slits. Its ears stretch out to either side, pointed. It has flippered feet and a huge belly. Its arms are so long that its palms touch the ground. I am Teneshad, master demon of the half-world, and slave of him who calls my name, it says. How can I serve you, good friends? Ask, and I shall bring your heart's desire, the demon continues. Helen says, Danny, get that thing out of here. Danny is obviously scared as well. He seems dumbfounded for a few seconds. He coughs. He waits a few seconds more as Helen trembles at his arm. Danny Nash eventually says, You know, it might work. Very well, my friend. Danny coughs again, summoning more courage. Bring us something to eat. The best. This is more like it. I said the best, and he brought it, Danny exclaimed. It had been some long moments since the demon had arrived. The dining room table was covered in a fine silken tablecloth. An ornate golden table set was upon it. Turkey and a wide assortment of beautiful succulent foods lay in front of them. Wine was chilling, and the demon, Teneshad, was on the other side of the table, watching them with his large, glowing, owlish eyes. The demon said, For years I served Mr. Sylvester, sir. I brought him wealth, fame, and even this house. Command me, and all these things shall be yours. Danny Nash took his seat at the head of the dining table, grabbing a goblet and pouring himself wine. The demon made haste to help Helen into her chair. Helen said, That creature is making me so nervous that I can't eat. Ask him to go. Danny replied, Okay, anything you say. Teneshad, while we finish up here, see that the bedroom is done over, fit for a king and queen. At once, master, the demon answered and bowed. Upon its orders, the demon had transformed the bedroom into a dream from Arabian Nights. Curtains and tapestries, rugs and jeweled vases. The beds were clean and fresh. Danny says to Helen upon seeing it, No complaints now, eh? Tomorrow we'll have complete new outfits, sports clothes, formals. Helen answers, Gee, I must be dreaming. The next morning came, and the two were at ease and truly having a good time, playing dress-up. Danny, posing once again, asked Helen, How do I look in white tie and tails? She was admiring herself in a tall freestanding mirror. Her dress was long and silken and yellow. The dress she was holding in front of her was long and silken and pink. She said, I've dreamed of clothes like this, and now I finally got my hands on them. I'll never give them up. She then sees something out of the corner of her eye. She turns and glares. Look at Teneshad now, she exclaims. He's grown to be the size of a house. Danny is gaping at Teneshad, master demon, when he is startled. He tries to gather his wits again. He says, Teneshad, I don't understand this. What's more, I saw something cross the floor near your feet. What's going on here? The creature was like a far smaller version of Teneshad, except with a differently proportioned body, beady red eyes, and small, leathery green wings. I saw nothing, master, the master demon said as it turned to leave the room. Nothing. Eek, something touched me. Oh, look, Helen shrieked. Great God, Danny yelled. What's that? Another of the creatures had appeared, and another, chasing it, and another. Tenesh had gathered two at his feet into his arms. Oh, you mean these, master? The demon asks. These are my pets. Danny Nash and his wife were a long time getting to sleep that night. Their stay was becoming more and more weird by the day. The next morning, Danny was awakened by Helen's screams. "Now what?" Danny asks. "Look in my bed," Helen cries. Another of the small green creatures was there, snuggled into the sheets. This one was different from the first small group, however. Without wings and with no legs, it was like a salamander. It had the same face and red, beady eyes as the others, though. At breakfast, Helen was a wreck. "God," Danny stammered. "Another one," he said. It had jumped upon the dining room table and was leering. It, too, was different. It was different than the ones that had scampered around Tanishad as they were in the dressing room. It was different than the one that had tried to join Helen in her slumber. This small reptilian demon had 6 legs, and so did a second one that then appeared and also jumped upon their breakfast table. "Another one," Danny Nash said in disgust. Helen then fainted. And once he had revived Helen, he told her, "We're getting out of here, right now." Helen was distraught and semi-delirious, barely able to stand. "Wait until I get my new clothes," she mumbled. "I won't leave without them." As she is grabbing gowns, more of the small demons appear, scampering around their legs and attempting to jump onto them. "They're like rats," Danny sneers. The man and his wife rush into the hall and down the stairs. The creatures are everywhere. "They're guarding all the doors and windows," she says, aghast. "We'll never get out." "Look at 'em, spoiling for a fight. Go back upstairs. Fast," he commands. Danny and Helen are now trapped in the dining room. They see Tanishad and try to come to some understanding with him. He has grown massive, but Danny still remembers the Master Demon's promise. Danny is frustrated and eventually says, "And so I order you to call off your pets and let us go free." "You order me?" the demon questions. "A big fellow like me? Come. You must stay here with me and my pets." But at these words, Helen's overwrought nerves give way completely. "I've had enough," she screams. "Do you hear?" she asks. "I won't stay here and you can't keep me here." She steps to an ornate wooden cabinet, wherein the fine golden plates, trays, and utensils are displayed. She grabs plates and hurls them. One flies out the biggest and most breakable thing she could find, which is a large picture window that looks out onto the street. She throws more and more. Below in the street, a crowd is gathering, and a policeman yells up at the window, "Hey, what goes on in the Sylvester house?" "The trouble seems to be upstairs, Sergeant. But what's to be done about the mob? Solid gold dishes don't come their way every day," the policeman observes. A group of 3 policemen gather, with their pistols drawn in the ready. One kicks open the front door of the Sylvester house. They rush into the foyer to see Helen rushing to them down the stairs. Helen screams at the police, "Help! Help!" "It's a dame, Sarge," one of the brighter of the group says. She rushes into the sergeant's arms. She pleads, "Get me out of here. My husband's upstairs. We killed Howard Carson." "Search the house," the sergeant commands his men. But a thorough search disclosed nothing out of the ordinary in the entire house, nor was there a trace of Danny or the demon. A policeman yells, "All in order on this floor, Sergeant." "All okay down here," another says. More police had arrived. "But I tell you, officer, my husband is in that house," Helen says. "Let's get down to headquarters, men. I think this little girl has a lot to tell us." After the police leave, Tanishad and Danny return to the library from the half-world. Danny cries, "What a place! What demons!" "Why, Danny," the demon says, "how can you talk like that about my home?" The demon is a giant now. Danny strains his neck to look up into its owlish eyes. At least Helen is safe in the hands of the police. "There must be some way out for me," he rationalizes. He sees a pack of cards on the fireplace mantel. "How about cutting the cards for High Man? If I win, I go free. If I lose, I am your slave forever. The demon laughs down its reptilian beak. It chortles. Sounds like fun, Danny, it says. Danny laughs nervously. Danny removes the deck of cards from the table. Yes, I knew we could come to some arrangement. Danny begins to shuffle them. The demon looks at Danny and the cards, expectantly and curiously. Danny holds out the deck, and the demon manages to grasp betwixt its huge forefinger and huger thumb. Ha, Danny says. 9 of spades. Not high enough, I'm afraid. There, Danny says, showing an ace of hearts. That makes me the high man. At last I'm free. Come, Mr. Nash. You're not playing fair with me. I think you're carrying other cards about you. Perhaps in your clothes? Then why don't you search me? Danny suggests. Danny knew he had no other cards. Danny would have cheated if he could, but he was nervous and unskilled at that form of swindle. The demon took Danny in the grasp of one of its massive talon-like hands and shook him. Playing cards dropped all over. Decks dropped onto the floor, kings and deuces, knights and fives, and jokers, and... But you know I could never carry that many cards about me. You produced those cards by magic. Of course, Mr. Nash. You are mine now. We will play no more games. Come along, Danny. I want you to meet Mr. Sylvester, the owner of the house, Master Demon Teneshad of the Half-World said. And so Danny is led away, a captive of the demon he had summoned. This is a sub-cellar that very few people know about, Danny, utterly soundproof, too. Say hello to Danny, Mr. S. Teneshad said to an old man that they finally happened upon, tired, sick, and bloody. The old man cried in a whisper, Make an end, Teneshad, and let me die, I beg you. What are those dark shadows moving on Mr. Sylvester's body? Danny asked. I can't see very well. Sorry, Danny, we must have more light. Light does appear, of course by a magical snap of the Master Demon's massive claws. Danny whimpers. Those dark forms, they were your pets. Of course, the poor little ones were hungry and we disturbed them. The little demons of all the sort Danny had already seen, as well as quite a few others, were all around them. A few had been feeding on the old man already. And then Danny Nash screams and screams, forgetting perhaps that the cellar is soundproof, just as Teneshad had said that it was.